Welcome, Noah. Where are you at right now?
I'm in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Which is hilarious because I wore this Texas shirt to represent Austin, which is where you live, the beautiful city of Austin.
Yes, sir.
One
And
thing
you're
I
in
want to know, a
Yes.
lot of this is like common criticism of people that run a business and are on social media. And I know the answer to this, but I want others to hear from your perspective on you're growing on a social media, but you also it's well known that you run this really successful business. And so I'm curious how you're able to spend so much time or put out so much content on YouTube while also running a business.
Yeah. It's interesting. 2 years ago when I was doing YouTube, I stopped doing YouTube because there's all these posers putting videos about how they're so rich. And I was like, I knew them personally. And I was like, you are poor. Not that poor is bad, but I was like, but you can put any title you want on YouTube. And it frustrated me. And so for my story with that, we hired a CEO named Ayman Al Abdullah about 6 years ago from Microsoft. And AppSumo at that time, he ran it just by himself while we were running other software projects. And in the past 5 years, him, with an amazing team, plus the support of me and my business partner, Chad, have built the company to over this year. It should do $50 to $70 million in top line at appsumo.com. And then profit, kind of confidential. And I don't know if it's that confidential, but we just don't talk about it. And then because we have money from that, I've taken about $1 million of our profit, and I use that to invest into the YouTube channel. So there's a team of about 5 of us full time. Mitchell and Jeremy are the main 2 guys that help organize the YouTube content. So I think that's what we've done in hiring people and then treating it professionally. I think a lot of people in social media or frankly in business treat it like a hobby or an amateur, and they get amateur results. And I think that's what we've done a little bit differently.
Yeah, about a year ago, you made a video about warning fake entrepreneurs. And at that time, I watched the video and I was like, yes, my man Noah is on, because I've known about you for a while. I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss, by the way. So that's how I heard about you. But I saw that video. I was like, yes, he's joining. And what's funny is at the time I was thinking about emailing you and be like, dude, I do this great video. But I was like, there's no way he's going to respond or want to link up and do a video. So it's quite funny that a year later, here we are.
You should next time just hit him up. So one thing about 15 years ago, I told a friend, I said, hey man, I missed you. This is a dude, my friend Grant. And I texted him, I told him, okay, I missed you like a few weeks ago. And he's like, well, you should just tell me right when you think of it. And so I think in business and in friendships and things like that, if you're like, hey, I should reach out to Noah, just do it right away. So like if I see something, like there's a musician, Kid Francesco Leschi. I love his music. He's just like an EDM, like it's called like
he's one of the only
track.
30 accounts you follow on Instagram.
Yeah. Good, dude. You're impressive. And so I just messaged him on Instagram. I was like, hey, I love your music. I want to host a concert or do something because I just think you're amazing. I want to send you money. And so then he responded. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I would say just like get on it right when you think of it.
Yeah. What does it hurt? It's just one email or whatever. I'm curious though. What are the biggest problems that you face in your life here in 2021?
21 or 20?
2021. Just currently, what are some problems in your life that you feel like you can't solve or you're in momentum to solve?
I don't see. I don't know, man. I think everything I'm kind of facing a little bit head on. There's some things. The 2 things that I wrote down that I'm afraid of is relationships with women. That's one thing. And drinking. I think I'm still trying to. I'm almost 40. I'm still trying to figure out the relationship with drinking. About like, do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? I don't. I'm not blacking out or crazy, but I've had moments where I'm like, well, I don't know if this is helping or not. And there's other moments where I'm like, this is great. In my professional life, honestly, I feel like a lot of those problems are solvable. I feel like being an entrepreneur and starting businesses, like you're pretty much just looking at problems all day and figuring out how to solve them. And I don't know, like the YouTube challenge it's not been a bad problem. It's just like a fun game. And same thing with appsumo.com, the marketplace we have. Just how do we scale this business, help more entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so they're good problems. It sounds like they're healthy problems. The business side, it's like I have goals. I'm not at the goals yet, but we feel like you're progressing.
I feel it's
to there.
Yeah, I think one thing I'm trying to do is just enjoy the journey. I hate when people say that to me back in the day. They're like, enjoy the journey. I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm trying to get to the destination. But I really am just like, I get to these destinations and I'm like, okay, now I have money, or now I have this thing, or we did this, we accomplished whatever these things are. And you're still the same person. So I think in the past year, I've really tried to identify more, here's the process, and like just being okay, the good ups and downs of a YouTube video doing well or a YouTube video failing.
10 out
So
of 10 hurts. So I have this theory, right? Like picture the socioeconomics of America as a pyramid, right? And I think majority of people are at the bottom, meaning 90 95% of people are at the bottom. And in that part of the triangle, money can solve all problems. And that's why it's so common for us to look at people making money, because I'm currently in that space, right? It's like all my problems right now could be solved by money. And so I'm always curious when people reach the next tier or the following tier,
yeah.
and all of their problems were solved by money. Now they're dealing with different problems. And so that's why I'm always curious
Oh,
about
I'm
hearing
curious
about
about that.
what problems do you face? And then more importantly, is there someone that you look up to that says, man, all my problems could be solved if I was in their position?
No, I think so. I'm curious to go a little bit deeper on this money thing. So
Yeah.
I have millions of dollars. It's not
Right.
bragging. I don't know, it just is.
It
And I
is
feel
what it
I,
is.
I guess I've gotten more comfortable being okay sharing that because I didn't. It's more positive. I feel like I can talk about things. Um, I think what's been interesting about money, I'll tell you, everyone's got their own relationship with money based on their upbringing. So if you have like, I have Jewish parents, so there's very strong, like, Noah, get health insurance. Stay with your, I started a job at Intel. That was my first job. And, depending on how your parents were, I'm sure you have your own experiences. And then your net worth and how your income is coming. And I would say my problem historically is I'm still to some extent very deal focused. Like my whole money, I've made millions of dollars because of deals. And so I get consumed with it. If it's not a good value, good deal, I just can't spend money. And I think that holds me back. So my main goal this year around money has been to spend or give away everything I make. And I wanted to practice and just being like, all right, well, it's not a great deal, but let's just move forward with it. And it's been interesting. Like yesterday, I'm staying at my buddy's place here in Puerto Rico in this bed, but then his friends ended up showing up and he's like, hey, you need to go get a hotel room. And so I was like, I'm just going to get the nicest hotel in Puerto Rico that I could find. And it's like $400 a night, which is expensive. And I'm just trying to be just more okay with it. I'm not saying you have to go flaunt or spend a lot, but just to experience what that's like. And I think everyone's got their own money hiccups. In terms of people I look up to, I don't look up to people for the money. Because I think what most people get wrong, Spencer, people that watch like the Charlatans or people that look at like, oh man, if I got rich on NFT or rich on GameStop or rich on this shit, I think what they're missing a lot of the time is that you need less money than you think. I don't know about you, but most people are like, oh man, if I only made $1 million, I'm like, if you had $1 million, one, you might still be a piece of shit. But two, like you need a lot less than that to live an amazing life. And that's what I try to get people to think more about. Well, I was going to say the people I look up to, it's less about how much money they're making. It's more of what they're accomplishing. So I do admire Chamath. I think how he's putting things out there, how he's coming out to the world, how he's kind of like fighting the giants, it seems like. I admire the Bezos of the world who've created a company that like spurned a lot of other companies. And, he's dating like hot Latin models. Like, like the cheating part I'm not a big fan of. I think I admire at this point the creators who are just beyond the money and doing whatever the fuck they really want. And that's honestly, I think that's how people can make a lot of money.
Yeah, see, this fascinates me because I feel like when you get a different tier, it's like one thing I heard that changed my life forever. And that is, how often do you wake up and just go, man, oxygen's amazing. I'm so thankful for oxygen or water. Me personally, I've never done that because it's so abundant that you don't even have to think about it. At least here in America, where I'm at, like there's always going to be running water. But the same thing happens with money, I'm assuming. I haven't reached that point. But right now, most people exist within a socioeconomic class where they feel like, man, I would want to go on vacation. It costs so much money. I'd love to do this. It costs so much money. So this concept of so much money is more abstract than concrete. And so it's this abstract view of like $10 million, $100 million, when what you're saying is maybe a certain cash flow of $5,000 a month could give them everything they want. And that's why I'm always curious about like once the money problem's solved and you're at that different tier, what becomes the problems or what becomes the hangups, what becomes the difficulties that you can't solve with money?
Well, I think the problem I've had, and I'm curious for yourself, is that I think up until maybe about a year ago, I was still chasing money. Like I'm going and trying to do things like it's hard for me to look at things and not try to make money. Like I bought a house and I was like, well, if I could do this to the house and add a guest house and I could rent the house. And then my girlfriend at the time was like, why don't you just buy? So I bought this house. It's 800 square foot. It's literally falling down. I didn't have water, so now I literally still don't have water in my house after the snow apocalypse. And I was like trying to make all this money, and my girlfriend at the time was like, why don't you just buy a nicer house? Like, why are you making this money to just live in a shit house? And there's, you hear Warren Buffett's lived in whatever the fuck, but then you hear like other people living crazy. And I think I've just tried to chase less of the money and more just like satisfaction and just having and being okay with that. I would be curious because like what's your bank? What bank do you use?
Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo. Okay, I use Chase. So let's just say right now you have 100,000 in there. It's all digital, right? So let's just say I transfer you 900,000 and now you have a million. Like how different, I'm curious your answer. Like how different does your life change right now? I'm going to transfer you 900,000.
I love that because some of the criticism on my channel that I receive is this guy's more financially successful than you, therefore your beliefs or your viewpoints on this are irrelevant. Well, my comeback is always, okay, let me go rob a bank and have 10 million. And then are my viewpoints any different? You know, is what I'm saying false? I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of stress. So real quick, I'm gonna make this real quick. I flip houses, ran in my first couple deals went sour, lost all my money, had to ride the bus 4 hours to and from work each day. So it's like on the bottom, right? And I was around stress and poverty for the first time in my life. I grew up middle class. My parents are wealthy. So like I've seen all different types of the socioeconomic class in America. And I really understood stress in the relationship with money a lot better in that experience. And so I think what happens when you receive a lump sum is the stress, the day-to-day stress decreases. You don't have to worry about maybe spending a little more on food, or if your car tire blows out. If you have a lot of money, I feel like the impact will be much less in your life, right? If you have $1,000 and you have a $500 expense, it's going to hurt. But if you have much more, I would think that expense would hurt less. You wouldn't really feel it. And so for me, if I were to all of a sudden have a million, I feel like a lot of my problems would be solved. I wouldn't be as tied to YouTube. I wouldn't be as tied to the algorithm because this is a majority of my income at this point. And so I'm living and dying by that algorithm, right? And that I could separate a little bit from that. I could be less emotionally tied to it.
Yeah, I hate when people in the high castles try to give advice because it's like, dude, you're already in your fucking rich castle. Shut up. So I try to, but it's tough, man. Like, yeah, if I have like $1,000 expense, I don't realize, and it's not as a mean thing or an arrogant thing. It's like, wow, some people, if they had $1,000 surprise bill, they're fucked. And yeah. I guess I haven't had that in a long time.
Yeah.
But
Which
I
is
think
what we should all strive for, by the way. It's like weird that we live in a society where people can have guilt over succeeding, right? Like you've talked about the 10-year rule where you say you can become a millionaire in 10 years. One thing that I really don't like about this fake guru world is that they're pushing this mindset and this agenda, this idea that you can get rich quick. But to me, I think you should always have long-term focus, which I think is really healthy that you have this, hey, in 10 years, let's focus on building something over 10 years.
I've tried to get rich, dude. I've tried to get rich quick. I've tried them. And like, sometimes it can kind of happen, but the reality is it almost never works. And the gurus that people follow, like, I always find it very strange if they got rich off of getting rich off you. So if they got rich off to teaching you how to get rich, like, fucking is weird to me. Versus like, I created a product, or I created a restaurant, or I created a service, and then I show you how I did it. I don't mind that as much. I think in terms of making money, I'm a little concerned for you that how much pressure you're putting on yourself. So when I was starting out, like, just in terms of my journey, I'm in my 30s, but in my 20s, I got fired all the time. I lived in my mom's house for 2 years. I lived in my aunt's basement for a year, and like I worked at all these really popular companies, but I was fired, tried a company, did well, then I got sued by a company and banned by Facebook, just crazy shit. But I think one thing all along was I kept my cost of living extremely low. Yeah. So like I lived on couches for a year when I was making six figures at mint.com. I lived at my family's houses. And so I didn't have the pressure to have to work. And then I found I could eventually get to do things that I wanted to do. Like doing AppSumo, I didn't have to, my rent was $500 a month in Austin. And I was like, well, I could just put out a deal. If I make $500, that'd be fucking cool. And I made $3,000 a month. I'm like, this is great. And so I think if you keep your cost of living low and then just find the activities, like, I don't know, do you enjoy the YouTube stuff? I can't tell. I'm a little surprised. It didn't seem like you did.
Yeah, it's just stressful. That's all.
How do you reduce the stress? What would make it less stressful? Like, let's just wake up Monday morning and you're like, living the dream.
I tell you what's really challenging for me now, because I love like philosophy. So that's why I love going in these conversations. I'm very fortunate right now and very humbled that the people I'm connecting with are all successful. Guys like you, I've become friends with a guy in town that runs a multi-million-dollar business in real estate. And so the people I'm connecting with now are all doing well. And we all fall victim to comparison syndrome, right? And so I'm now hanging in circles, right? If you came out to Vegas and we hung out, it's like, dude, I'm hanging out with a guy this successful. And so it's hard when you're not at those levels. And that's part of it. So it's just a challenge mentally that I need to relax and see the long road, right? Be patient. That's one thing.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was saying you don't need to relax. Like I'm still working hard. I still am up later, up early, like getting shit done, and I still am not. There's times I think to be successful as an entrepreneur, one of the key ingredients is dissatisfaction, which sucks because I want to be fucking satisfied, as I told you earlier. But a lot of times, like someone comes to me, is like, "Here's what I did." I'm like, "Well, that's what the part wrong with it," and that leads to a very unfulfilled life. I will tell you, man. So when I started at AppSumo.com and I was on this business journey, I have a friend who's a famous author. And he, makes a lot of money. And I was really jealous of him. And I was just like, fuck that guy. And he's so much more popular than me. And he's making more money than me. And a lot of that. And then eventually I was like, well, Noah, do you want to do what he's doing? I was like, no, I don't like what he's doing. I don't like that life. I was like, well, are you liking what you're doing? I'm like, not really. I was like, huh. Well, then just do the fucking thing you want to do. So go back and do AppSumo the way you want. And now with YouTube, it's like I just get to hang out with people like you and hopefully inspire or help you in your journey and other people and fucking make fun of creative videos. That's pretty fucking cool. And so I compare less. I get insecure like, oh, am I not making as much money, or could I be making more money with other uses of my time? And it's like, yes, I could, but this is way more fulfilling and satisfying. So I think as you get to that part where you're satisfied in your own shit, you kind of do compare less. But I would say on the flip side of what you said, you should be around the fucking richest people. Not just richest, but the most impressive or interesting people for yourself. Like all of my friends, this is going to be kind of strange. I don't think I have one friend who's not a millionaire. I know, and I'm not bragging. It's not like, well, Noah's a fucking bragaholic. I don't give a shit about that. I didn't even realize that until a month ago when my friend asked me. He's like, hey, do you have any poor friends? And it's not that I go out and ask people like, hey, what's your net worth? Let me see your bank account. Okay, we could be friends. It's not, I don't give a fuck about that. But I do intentionally try to surround myself with someone like you and someone like other people who are creatives, who are impressive people doing interesting shit. So I would actually do the opposite and like, you should try to be around a bunch of people. You're like, man, these guys and girls are fucking impressive.
Motivating for sure.
Yeah, dude. Because that's how you're like, yeah. Like my friends are like, hey, I'm doing this one thing. I was like, oh, that's fucking clever. And that's how you kind of, it is a little bit how the rich get richer because they surround themselves with other fucking rich assholes.
Yeah. You mentioned you were sleeping on couches and whatnot. I'm curious. So you had this evolution of you were making pretty good money, but now obviously a lot more. I'm curious how money changed you as far as social dynamics or dating. So
I'll just tell you, when I got $3 million in cash in my bank account, I felt rich. I know that sounds like, doesn't make any fucking sense, right? I had like 100,000, I had $1 million. I went to my dad. I said, hey, I got $1 million. He's like, okay. And so that was a kind of a weird experience because you want your dad to like acknowledge you. And that's a whole like, therapy stuff I've gone to about. But when I finally had $3 million cash, I was like, you did it, son. I felt like even if everything went bad, I could survive in Thailand or India for the rest of my life. In terms of dating, I thought it would make it more easier, if I'm honest, to meet women. I don't think it does.
Well, you don't have a Lambo. That's the trick.
Yeah. You can actually, I will say what's really funny about that specifically. I rented a Lambo on Turo.com for, dude, you could rent it for $300 if you want to make a fucking fake ass video or you want to act rich. So I rented this $300 Lambo and I'm driving around LA. I was living in LA at the time. I live there, I go there every year. And I pull up to this Maestro's expensive restaurant on Malibu Coast. And this guy there, the valet, he's like, man, one day I want to get a Lambo just like you. And I was like, bro, you could rent it for $280 a day. He's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, it's accessible. And the irony in the situation was that he parks the Lambo and he gives me the ticket. And I'm like, hey, he was on his phone. I was like, hey, man, what are you watching on your phone? He's like, I'm watching Gary Vaynerchuk. Nice. And I was like, oh, he's trying to watch how to get rich. I think money, it hasn't changed dating very much. I also think I'm back dating, so I don't think I've really changed how much that is. I think some people find out that I've got some money. I think it just made decisions easier. I'm not budgeting, right? So if I want to take a flight somewhere, just like today, I bought the flight first class back to Austin on Thursday. I don't think it's really changed it's just like I don't have to sweat a lot of the decisions I think other people really have to sweat.
Yeah. Your friend Tim wrote hands down my favorite blog post of all time. Of all time, best number one. It's about fame. He wrote things in that blog post that I never considered. And one thing was that when he goes out on dates, sometimes he had to consider whether it was a journalist writing a hit piece, something I had never thought of. And so I'm curious if you've ever, you know, when people start accumulating, I don't know what kind of level of fame you have if you're well known in circles in Austin. I don't know, but just there's some things that happen when you have success, especially you're pretty public about your businesses and whatnot, that you were, you know, at Facebook early, at Mint, your net worth. And I'm just curious if you've ever run into a girl saying, ooh, I know of this guy, I'll go on a date with him. And
so there's two pieces. I'm on some of the dating apps and so forth. I've had numerous people be like, hey, I know you're the CEO of the company. Or I've seen you on YouTube, which the thing that is not, it's great because it's kind of like, that's cool. It's not great if it creates like a weird power dynamic where they're like, oh, like he's above me. Like obviously you want to meet an equal partner.
You're the hot chick now.
It, you know, in some things, yeah, but I've worked many years and many, you know, ups and downs to get there. The thing that I've had to actually be considerate of is I was texting a female and I said something pretty offensive as a joke. But now that I am a public figure, I do have a company that if it publicly things get out, like it could hurt our company's business. And I didn't realize it until that moment. And it wasn't like crazy offensive, but I was like, oh, she could take this, put out a post, and like it could really hurt my reputation, which, you know, it takes one thing. Like in the Silicon Valley where I'm from, like there are guys now that can never raise a fund of money because of some harassment that they did of a female. So like Dave McClure, Shervin Pishvar, a few of these other guys, like, you know, I know Dave's a good buddy, but like they did something supposedly and it got out in the press and now they're kind of tarnished. So that reputation is valuable. But in dating, I don't flaunt. I don't like pull up in a Lambo. I pull up in a Miata, which is dope. I also have a Tesla, but I pull up in a Miata and like, I think with some women, I don't know. It's nice that I can go. I think it's nice that they know that I can take care of them. I think that part's good, but I don't come out and like go to fancy restaurants or anything like that. It's like, hey, let's go to a dive bar. Or let's go get a coffee.
Tacos are your thing, right?
It is. Go to Taco Deli.
Yeah, tacos are the thing in Houston. Well, I used to live in Houston, so Texas, they're big.
Yeah. It is. I mean, the biggest comparison I have in terms of lifestyle, Spencer, it seems like that's a lot of what you're curious about, is my brother. So my brother texted me yesterday and he's like, I'm jealous of your lifestyle. And that was honestly a strange fucking thing to receive. Because this is a guy I grew up with. This is my brother, right? This is a guy that looks like me, has the same blood, probably talks like me. And it made me feel a little guilty. Not more bad. Like I wanted him and everyone else to have this opportunity. Because like I haven't done a resume. I haven't had a job in like probably 12, 15 years. You know, I can go and work in Puerto Rico because I decided to. And the thing I told him about my lifestyle, it's not exclusive. Not just for fucking Noah. It's available for everyone. But for him, I was like, if you want this, you need to start it now. You need to start today. So get on YouTube and start being like Spencer or Noah doing content creation. Go and try to do like, you know, selling on eBay marketplaces. Like go on, like buy and sell fucking products. Whatever it is that they're interested in, they have to start right now. And most of it is like, it'll take a few years to get to some level of sustainability.
We're going to create a marketing plan for a business. This is a loaded question, by the way, because I'm going to lead you into it. So we're going to create a plan for a business that has to make $1,000 in 30 days. Okay. You have to make $1,000 in 30 days. Do you include mindset in that marketing plan?
Mindset? What fucking mindset? My plan is to make money. What the fuck people talking mindset?
It was a loaded question because I was curious what you were going to say. So one thing I talk about, I think mindset's the most overhyped and underdelivered snake oil sold on the interwebs. And so I was curious, a guy like you that's known for like quick ideas, marketing, getting out there and making money. This concept of mindset that gets passed around in these circles, I feel like it's the first part of a lot of these courses. And I'm very engineer focused. Like I'm very like process. Like if I go, hey Noah, I want to start a YouTube channel. Can you tell me what I'm expecting? A 10-step plan that's like very precise. And I find mindset to be a complete waste of time.
I agree with you partially. Like, you know, I'll tell you what I hate. I hate when people are like, you have to have an abundance mindset. Don't be in scarcity mode. Everyone who fucking says that is rich.
Right.
You don't hear poor people or homeless people being like, you know, I'm going to have an abundance mindset that I'm going to panhandle really well today. They're like, holy shit, I hope I can get some money to buy some fucking beer.
Survival mode.
Yeah, they're surviving. And it's like, shut up, dude. Not you, but the
Yeah.
abundance people.
Yeah.
So I have down days. I have fucking hard, stuff. Just like, it's not like I'm not exclusive to these emotions. I think in terms of mindset, though, it's easy to feel the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Like, hey, I'm fucking rich. This is going great. Hey, this sucks. And so I do think mindset is helpful because I think one of the key traits of success is perseverance.
Yes.
Because, dude, quit Intel at 14 months, fired at Facebook at 9 months, fired at Mint 9 months. Next company was going to be a huge fucking business. Then we got sued by a competitor and banned by Facebook. And it was just like, fuck after fuck after fuck, man. And it's like, it wasn't just to make the money, but I did want to get rich. That was something I thought I was going to do. I didn't know how it's going to happen. And you
what
just
I call the Mike Tyson punches, where it's just like, man, that sucks.
Yeah, I that thing where everyone has a plan to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you ever said that, but I some of this shit I'm like, where did that fuck come from? But my point here is with with these successes, it's mindset does matter though. I would say that there's some value in it because there are a lot of people. Like I talked to this woman yesterday. She watched an interview like this. She got super inspired to say, I'm going to start now. I'm going to have a vision, a dream of where I want to go, and I'm going to get going. And then she woke up in the morning and was like, I'm afraid. And everyone has fear.
Here's
And
why mindset's incredibly important. You have to have some type of perseverance or the ability to get punched and get back up for sure. If you want to have success in any field, 100% correct. My point is that I think that requires therapy. There's a lot of deep trauma that people have without realizing it. And I think going to a therapist or going to a professional is the person that will help solve getting over those fears or those insecurities. Or if people have low self-esteem, I don't think it's going to come from some course, some guy yelling good mindset. That's all.
Look, I guess in terms of life, there's a lot of different restaurants to get the dishes you want. I think the way
That's
that
true.
I've preferred things is experience. And so if you're afraid, go do the coffee challenge, which is something I've talked about, which is go ask for 10% off when you buy coffee. No matter, and a lot of people are like, oh, I could do it. It's like, well, then do it. And fear it, overcome it, and move forward. And I think where people, relate to me or, enjoy my materials because I'm more about the action and less about like, let me talk to you about some shit. I'm like, no, let me show you how to fucking do it or go do it right now. And experience those changes. Because I think that's how you fix your mindset versus, it's easy for me to go to therapy. I go to therapy. It's easier for me to read a book. You know what's fucking hard? Doing it.
To change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking tough.
Did you ever spend time in the pickup world? I saw you had a friend, Tynan, who has like a popular blog post about picking up women. Did you ever dabble in that world at all?
I mean, I try to pick up women. Pick up just sounds strange because I'm not picking them up. I try to talk to women and date them. I've read a lot of those books. I think it's fascinating. I've never been in like the PUA forum world, the pickup artist, but I have read those books because whether in business or in meeting like a gentleman like yourself or women, like it's helpful to know how to be more appealing.
Yeah, that whole world is about just going and do it. If you see a cute girl, go and talk to her. It's like way more about action as opposed to theory. But anyway, shifting. I'm curious. I want to get into
dude.
the what's that?
Shift, your show.
Yeah. The fake guru world. Why do you think there's a prevalence of these fake gurus that are existing on social media?
Because they can make money. If they couldn't make any fucking money, there wouldn't be any of them. But like this has been around since the 80s.
Yeah. The messaging's the same too.
Yeah, it's look at if 80s, 90s, probably from the 10s. And I think what's challenging is like take Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. This book is an iconic book. But there's a large amount of people who say he's a fucking fraudster, and there's a large amount of people saying, hey, I read this book and it changed my fucking life. So what's the right answer? And, you take Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is now I would say almost an A-list celebrity. What was Tim's business before he wrote this book that told people how to run a business?
It was Quicken, right?
Brain Quicken.
Brain
it was
Quicken.
a sugar powder supplement.
I see. So like on the spectrum, what you're saying is where's the line?
What makes Tim is a buddy, and I've known Tim for, I don't know, 15 years. The question that I wonder for anyone out there is what makes anyone an expert, right? And I think an expert is made because they impact and help people actually get results. And if you ask a lot of people what book changed their life in business, Tim's book has done it almost more than any other book I've ever heard of. And so if you want to be an expert and outside of the charlatan world, get results for people. I think where things get confusing, Because you do have to sell a dream. Like when you sell Nike, they don't sell you a fat ass on a couch. They show you LeBron James dunking a big ass basketball. And so when I think where it gets questionable is you see these guys on the YouTube ads like, hey, I'm on a beach. Hey, I'm like, but you don't necessarily know what they're really doing. And I think that's where it gets a little confusing. And you don't hear about all these people helping you don't hear about a lot of the results.
If you have a course that it gets
Yes.
promoted as, I can teach you how to start a business, I can teach you how to do e-com, real estate, and the success of the students is at 5% or lower, do you see the success of the 5% of students as a successful course? Or do you see the 95% fail and say, this is probably a course that doesn't work?
So I've put out a course, monthly1k.com. We still have it out there. And we're technologists. So we literally looked and tracked every single step in the course. And the course literally at best got 20% of people to get to the end. And even those 20% of people didn't get a huge successful company. And what's fascinating though is if you talk to the 80%, half would be like, yeah, I just didn't open the book. I didn't open the course. So is that my fault or their fault? It's a little bit of both. And the other half said, hey, I didn't make it to the end, but I got something out of it. And so I think it's the creator's responsibility to help drive the result. So like, I had a friend, he's like, well, when they sell gym equipment, a lot of times when they sell you home gym equipment, they're like, it's very easy to put in the closet. So when you stop using it, it's not seen by anyone. You don't feel as bad. But my point here is that I still think it's ultimately the responsibility of me or you or whoever's putting out material to be as effective as possible in getting the result that you're promising. So
Hack Reactor Hack Reactor is a coding boot camp. They have one galvanized in Austin. They have a few of these in Austin, and they are rigorous about checking the student success rate. It's like 97% of people enter and leave with a higher salary, new career. And I just find it fascinating that in certain industries, we look at that and we need it. It's like, that's great to have these standards. But then in the course business, we don't really have that. For me, my opinion on and this is just an opinion, but my opinion on the online course model, I think the entire model doesn't work. It's very low success rate. All these businesses are hard. If anyone asks you if getting to where you are is easy, it's like you'd laugh. I mean, as you just explained, it's like the amount of setbacks you faced over a decade or longer. We're talking a decade, and you had major life problems and setbacks. And so these course model that's like, in the next year, you can start an Amazon store and get rich. It just, no business works like that.
Not in reality. And that's the problem I have with like NFT and crypto and all this stuff today, because it's kind of encouraging people like these Robinhood losers that, hey, I'm going to buy a fucking share of this and gamble and get rich. When traditionally, unless you're a professional investor, which means you've become an expert at it from time, that's the way you can get rich with it. But normally investing is where you keep your cash. It's not the way you're going to be making all your cash. And so what I have observed in helping tens of thousands of people start businesses and starting and failing a lot of my own is that in 1 year, if you put in the work on YouTube, in 1 year, if you start an e-commerce store, in 1 year, if you start a blog, or if you start a consulting business, in 1 year, I would guarantee if you put in the work and stick with it, you can make $1,000 a month. That is guaranteed. If you can get beyond that, you're, I'd say above. But after seeing lots of people put in 1 year, commit to at least 1 year of work, you'll make $1,000. What happens though, is that there are setbacks, and most of these people are chasing opportunities that they don't really give a shit about, and they quit really quickly. So for me, like YouTube, my plan is to never quit. Like if I can do this until the day maybe I'll never die, then there'll be a fucking lot of Noah Kagan out there in the YouTube world. And so it's just finding the piece of work that you're just truly interested in doing. Like I've been doing this content shit since 2000. It's over 20 years now, which is kind of fucking crazy. And for most of it, I never try to make money on it. Only now, like we have YouTube ads on, but even that doesn't make a shit.
Yeah, that's what you said in there, I think is really important. And that is figure out what you want. Because I get asked questions a lot in Instagram DMs, because I am the guy that kind of exposes a lot of these schemes. And so what should I start? Well, that's not really the question. The question is, what do you want to start? What can you do for 10 years? Or what are you interested in doing for the next 5 years with no guarantees of success? I think that's the better place to start.
Why do you care to expose all these people? That's like, because there's CoffeeZilla, there's some of these guys. I think where I get hesitant about putting out a lot of content around the scammers is I don't find it as productive, and I find it more like trolling and critical. Not that you are that, but it makes me curious why you guys want to spend your time around that.
Yes. So here's how I started. I'm in real estate. I love real estate. I noticed that all these shows, a lot of this content about real estate and flipping, they don't share you the real details. So I was like, man, I want to share what it's really like to flip houses. And then I found CoffeeZilla and I started looking into these fake gurus. And so what I wanted to do is I just wanted an objective look at some of these guys with big followings. And it was all for fun. There was no like scheme to get a huge following off these people. I had no subscribers. It was like, I just want to look at these people. Are they as legitimate as they say when they say they run these successful businesses? I just wanted to do a deep dive. And so that's how it started. And then as I got into it, it almost like became a rabbit hole where I started going down. And then I realized how damaging a lot of what these people do are doing to people that are in a position where I don't think they can afford the negative. I call it negative, but the messaging and the advertising that they receive. Because I think a lot of people that buy into these programs are in a point in life where they're a little more desperate. They're more prone to the get rich quick or get rich easy messaging. And so they're spending $1,000 on a course when they only have $1,000. But I'm not too interested in the course. I always focus on the people. And I just wanted to start a series of, is this person legit or not? Are they an authentic guru or are they a charlatan? That's how it started.
So what separates that? Like, what separates someone like me from the people that you are criticizing?
What I look for first is, are they doing what they're actually talking about, right? So if they're saying they're an expert in sales, do they have a history in sales? If they're running a copywriting business, did they ever run a successful copywriting business? That's like the first and foremost thing. And then second, are they still doing what they're promoting? So if you're promoting a real estate wholesaling course and you're promoting it as being easy to get $5,000 a month, if you're no longer wholesaling, I kind of view that as you're kind of getting rich quick off selling the dream as opposed to doing it. Those are really the first two metrics I look at. I've kind of shifted though. I personally don't love doing a deep dive into people as much, because with that viewpoint, you have to look for things to expose. Like, I'm going to expose Noah, right? I'm going to find something that he doesn't want. That's not a fun way to go about your life in time. So now I like focusing more on the marketing and the advertising, because I think that's a little more important for people to just to understand the marketing aspect of these get rich easy schemes, so that I personally think awareness will help solve the scam. I really dislike the marketing and advertising that these people use personally. Whether it's ethical or unethical is up to you. I find it to be highly unethical, but that's also subjective. It's up to you to decipher.
Yeah, it is interesting, man, because like there's the guys who did I did this video about just reviewing all the YouTube ads on my channel, and it was fucking shady.
Yes.
And I actually called and interviewed one of them, and the reality is he does run a Facebook, an Amazon FBA business.
Tom Wang.
But he makes all,
right?
What's that?
I think it was Tom Wang.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tom, I actually got to talk to him. He seemed like a straight up dude, but honestly, he makes all of his fucking money selling the course. I'm pretty sure that like the actual cash that he's making is from the course.
I just have a problem with this idea of like get rich easy and you can make all this money doing it. That's just not the way it is in the real world. Life is hard, man. Like no matter what endeavor you take on, especially if you're starting from zero, if you have no experience in anything real estate, you don't have a rich uncle in real estate, you don't have anything, like if you're starting from zero, this game is flipping hard. And every now and then you'll have someone that succeeds and it kind of looks easy, but don't let anyone fool you. Any of these business ventures are hard. And I take a personal vendetta against the people that are making it sound easy. I just really dislike, and on a more grander scale, I really dislike social media. Like Instagram to me is like one of the worst things in society. I strongly, vehemently dislike. The only reason why I have it is I want the blue check mark for dating purposes down the road. Get in.
Do you have a blue check mark?
No, not even close.
Bro, let's get you a blue check mark. Well, look, I think taking a step back, if the money is quick and you know there's like a free pizza available for people, everyone's gonna try to grab this fucking free pizza. And I think that's a hard thing as humans for us to like be disciplined on.
Yes.
That's just fucking tough, because if it's quick, easy money, like there's someone who can promise that we'll make it really fast, like that's appealing. And you know, like some of these, I guess, traditional fundamental values of like, hey, work hard, are a little bit lost. But I do think, you know, I was watching a Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett thing. Like these guys are 200 years old. So they've been through the cycles of life. And they're like, look, you know, there is get rich quick stuff, but eventually like things like the market tells the truth. And you know, GameStop is not worth $30 billion selling a few consoles. Right. So it doesn't make any sense to go invest in that shit unless you're like a gambler. I don't know about a degenerate, but you're a gambler and you're hoping to get rich off of it. But eventually that's going to come back to the truth and you'll have to go back to fucking work.
Yeah.
I think
mental health is something that I'm very glad that it's becoming more mainstream. And I think social media, a lot of these gurus, I think they're providing a platform that really impacts mental health of youth negatively. And by the way, like part of being a content creator, you need to take a stand on something. So if, people can disagree, or you might not 100% agree, that's fine. Usually, to make content, sometimes you take a stand on something and you double down on it. So I'm double downing. I think that's the word.
Double down, dude. 10x. I think the problem is 10x down. So here, let's talk more like how to make money, or we can talk more about the charlatans. I think would be interesting maybe is also having like a business challenge. Like I'll fucking go up against these guys. Like, hey, let's actually start.
They won't do it. They wouldn't do it.
Well, I will tell you, I have a course that we started years ago, and I don't promote it at all. But the number one way we sold our course, and this is actually fascinating. I thought about this recently because we launched Sumo launched a marketplace. So if you have a book or course or software for other entrepreneurs, you can put it on our marketplace. But the number one way we sold our course, and I was thinking about it for the marketplace, was I started a business called Sumo Jerky. And I didn't use my email list. I didn't use like blasting my big ass network of people. And I try to do something smaller. And I started a business, made $4,000 revenue, $1,000 profit in 24 hours. And it was the number one way we ever sold that course. And that was like a fascinating insight of like, hey, if you want to sell something, prove it. And a lot of these guys are like, hey, come watch me like do some drop shipping. I fucking hate drop shippers. I hate the affiliate marketers. But prove, like you want to start a business live, like prove it, start it and show it. And that's how you can sell your software. That's how you can sell your book or whatever it is you're trying to convince people to buy.
Yeah. So there's two angles to this, right? You can kind of show the shady side and just say, hey, avoid this. And then you can also show, hey, I'm going to go out and make a bunch of money. I'm not wired the way you are. You're one way. You're very you're wired. You can go out and sell. Like, let's just create a product, go out and sell. Very entrepreneur driven. I'm not that way. And so and I also don't want to make content on stuff I'm not doing. So if I'm not building $1 million real estate business, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about how to do real estate if I'm not doing it. And so that's also another side of it is, yeah, I'd love to teach how to go make money, but I'm limited. I only have 2 income sources right now. So I don't want to stretch past that, if that makes sense.
Well, there's like in Australia, there's this line, the tallest poppy seed gets picked. You ever heard that?
I haven't.
If you go to Australia, they always fucking tell you that line.
Please tell me you go on dates and speak like that the whole time. And then at the end, be like, hey, nice meeting you.
I do like accents, even though I think I'm not bad, but I'm not great at it. But I don't know, man. Like, I think there's something interesting. I think this is what frustrated me about YouTube years ago. Now I just don't give a fuck. But years ago, people were like, hey, I'm rich. And I'm like, you're not. And it would frustrate me. And now I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. Do whatever they want. And I'll just keep doing my shit for reals. And eventually that'll come around. I guess for you, I would be curious about creating content. You're like, hey, I'm struggling. Hey, here's like me trying to do my shit in this world. And that's all I can do. And so you might want to just share that. I think you're saying, hey, I'm not a millionaire in real estate yet. That's okay. Talk about it might be something that a lot of people can relate to, because you see like, Graham and Meet Kevin, these are like the guys that are, I guess, making money in real estate. Those guys aren't making money in real estate anymore. They make money doing YouTube.
Right.
And so I think maybe you sharing a little bit more of your struggle, like on my OKDork.com blog, I've shared a lot of posts about here's how I've got out of depression. Here's how I did ayahuasca. Here's like, I've done all these things that, and I, just go through ups and downs of life. And honestly, that's some of the content that like has people like still reach out to me about. So it might be something for you to kind of consider.
Yeah, what sucks about the YouTube algorithm is when you're playing the game to maximize analytics, which is the current game I'm playing, you kind of get stuck in making content that has a higher probability of getting views, which in turn is subscribers, which in turn is revenue, as opposed to like more personal based, which those videos bomb. And where I'm at in life, it doesn't make financial sense, right? If I'm treating this like a business, it doesn't make any financial sense to make time making a video about me. And plus I don't want to treat this channel about me. I'm not really like a look at me kind of guy. And so I'm kind of uncomfortable in making videos like that.
I don't know. I think that's the challenge, is that even yourself, right? Like you ask why Charlatans exist is because there's money to be made. And you're like, well, why can't I make videos about myself? Because it's like, that's not what gets watched.
True.
And that's kind of the challenge in all businesses. It's like, here's what I love to do in the world. Here's how you fucking make money. And yeah, hopefully can find the inner, that inner dial or that inner overlap with some of these videos.
Agreed.
But I don't know. I think share the journey, dude. I think some of it is like the sex cash theory, which is like, go do the videos like, here's how this person's crazy rich, or here's how this person spent all this money. That's how you get a lot of cash. But the sex one, which is the art stuff, so you can have sex with people, is like, hey, here's me, like something creative that I'm trying to do with my videos.
Yeah. Okay. Covered that. I am curious. Were you ever in a room or social circle of certain type of successful people and you didn't feel like you belonged?
I will say when I worked at Facebook was the only time, which I miss, to be honest, was probably the main time I was around people that consistently I did not feel smart. And consistently my ideas were getting challenged and the ideas were better than my ideas. And I think I'm above average smarts. I don't think I'm the top, but I think I'm in like the 80th, 89th percentile, but my aggressiveness is higher than most. And so it was nice to be placed in an uncomfortable environment. Since then, I don't think so. But I'd say what I would look for other people out there, whether you have like an accountability buddy, which I still do, I have an accountability buddy where I talk about things I'm working on, is that do you have people, and I say at AppSumo, the people around me talk shit to me.
Oh, so you're not filled by X-Men or yes men all around you.
Here's the problem is that people that say, no one says they are. It's like no one ever says they're a micromanager. If you don't say, if you're like, I'm definitely not a micromanager, that means you're a fucking micromanager. So I have found women and men around me that talk shit to me. And I think that's a very good sign. They support me and I support them. But like my buddy Adam, you know, a month ago, I was complaining about something and I thought he was just going to be supportive. Like, yeah, man, yeah, that's bullshit, dude. Fuck them. They messed up. He doesn't talk like that. He's got a New York accent. New York. But he was like, yo, man, you're being a fucking bitch and stop having a pity party and start having a power party. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, dude, take some power back instead of being having your pity party. And, you know, Eamon, who runs AppSumo, Chad, who's my business partner, like Chad, my business partner, I showed him our YouTube videos coming up. And he's like, those are all pretty, you know, weak. I was like, what do you mean? These are great topics. Like, what about Bitcoin? He's like, you're not going big enough. I'm like, I'm not going big enough? And it was nice to have that level of challenge. And so I would, for you, Spencer, if it's me or someone else around you, whoever that is, find these people that do make you uncomfortable, that do, you know, my buddy Andrew Chen, he's like a very popular venture capitalist, you know, andrewchen.co, and he's a partner at A16Z. And so we showed him our business. Our business is making like, you know, let's say this year it's going to do almost 70 million. And, but, which is great. But this guy is now, they funded at Lyft, Airbnb, Coinbase. He's around $1 billion companies. He's like, no, why aren't you guys at $1 billion?
Wow. Step your game up.
So like I'm like proud, like, yeah, we're at this company, we have 8 figures, how cool. He's like, dude, that's nothing. You guys are not, which kind of like a little discouraging. And you have to be mindful of like, am I just trying to get to this $1 billion for no fucking reason? Which is a whole more psychology. But I think the point I'm trying to say is go find uncomfortable people around you. Go find those kind of people and do whatever it takes to be around them.
One thing I loved about software engineers and being in that world. So I used to work for a tech company in software development out here in Vegas. And one thing that people who are software engineers that I found are very comfortable is they're very comfortable with criticism and having their positions attacked, which I find to be the healthiest environment. If I say, hey, Noah, the next 3 YouTube videos are X, Y, and Z, I want you to go, that middle one, I don't like it. The thumbnail's not good. That's healthy. And that's why I'm so open to criticism on YouTube. Like I'm open to it. If people want to criticize me, I don't look at it as a negative, right? Because there's going to be a lot of constructive criticism where you can improve. And I wish we had more of that. We had more people comfortable with criticism because I'm very comfortable criticizing others. And I found that very few people are comfortable receiving criticism, but I find that to be the healthiest type of relationship.
I would say one of the strongest things that anyone can do wherever they are in their career, including myself, is that ask for feedback. Not just like wait for criticism, but if you're an employee somewhere, or if you're a content creator, or if you're anything, and you want to get better, you go and ask people that you trust and respect, like, hey, what do you think I can do to improve? And you'll be, you know, pretty shocked. So in my to-dos, literally every quarter, it says, go ask teammates for feedback. So Mitchell, who runs our channel, I say, hey, what do you like that I'm doing? What do you not like that I'm doing? And, you know, we ideally try to keep getting better.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that you have a guy for CTR, a thumbnail guy, content guy. You got a whole team.
Well, I think that's the difference between an amateur and a professional, man. Like if you want to take it to the you know, size of a business versus a hobby, you have to look at how businesses are treated. And I think appsumo.com, when we started that company, there was a lot of competitors. And the difference was that we treated it hard fucking core. Like we were serious as shit about that. We were not taking it lightly. And that's the reason that none of them are around and we are. And I think the same thing goes for YouTube, is that when I started doing YouTube 10 years ago, I could literally take a dump and put it on YouTube and it would get 10,000 views. Now I have to pray. I go to synagogue and I say, oh, God, Allah, Buddha, just give me like 1,000 views. That's all I need, please. And so the level of expectation to be successful in this age takes more. And it doesn't mean you can't start out today. You start out basic, you start like you, where you probably start out very, and you keep reinvesting that money. You started simple and then you keep reinvesting. And I think most people, they treat it like a hobby and then they get hobby results. And I think if you want serious results, you have to treat it seriously.
Yeah, you've talked to a guy, Ryan Pineda, out here in Vegas, and
I've texted with him. I don't think I've ever talked with him though.
Okay, yeah, he's a solid dude, man. So I've hung out with him recently. He's same way, outsources everything, treats it like a business, and it's the first time I've ever been around someone that treats YouTube like a business and outsources, and I find it very fascinating. Just everything is outsourced.
It doesn't have to be outsourced. I don't know if that's necessarily.
Hired. You hire someone to handle it. Hired, outsourced, whatever terminology.
Well, I think I was talking with Lewis Howes yesterday. He's a popular YouTuber and longtime friend of mine. And one, it takes a long time, and you have to be consistent no matter what business you are. I think that's number one. But number two with all this stuff is, what model are you following? And so let's just take anything in entertainment. Take a late night TV show, which is kind of what you are, right? Like you're kind of making like ESPN documentaries or, like Jimmy Kimmel or Jay Leno. Think about what they have in their team, right? So they have a producer, they have an assistant, they have a booker, they have like all these different kind of people, they have, different producers. And so that is what YouTube, to be succeeding on YouTube, that's the level of what you need to do eventually to win. And so like on our team, we have a director of the channel, we have a lead producer, we have an assistant producer, we have a thumbnail designer, we have a video editor, we have a social media intern. And so like Mr. Beast, who's one of the top YouTubers, I think his team's like at 100 now.
It's big.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't mean you have to, like, look, I don't think people should get discouraged. Like I started shirtless in my bedroom with my phone, and I'm still doing it that way sometimes, right? Like I'm on a table with my iPad recording 2 days ago. But now as I've evolved and I can see it's an investment, like we have 2 studios at our office, like, $10,000 each studios with very expensive gear. And that's what you build up to over time. I think the key thing with YouTube or any business though is find what you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I fucking like that I get to talk to people. I like that I get to be creative and make content. I like attention. And so that it works for me, but it doesn't mean everyone has to do this. Just find the thing they do like to do.
Agreed. Now, you're expert in marketing. You really understand marketing. I'm not in that world. And so I'm curious with collaborations like this one, I'm curious how you value it. And I'm going to leave it open-ended for you to answer how you may.
I think there's a difference between a professional and an amateur. And a professional is looking, like when people look at Mr. Beast, they watch a video and they say, wow, look at him give away a thing. Wow, he's probably just him and his buddy like filming it. And they're like, that dude, if you look at his job listing, is actually his job listing recently for a content person was asking about analytics and data and looking at results. And that is something that a professional does versus an amateur. And that takes time, but it's something that they're treating it professional. It's treating it professionally. And so how we look at our YouTube as a business, which is our main focus, is we have a goal. And this is what I learned from Zuckerberg, which is our only goal is to get to 250,000 subscribers. That is my only goal this year. The company Sumo has a goal to make at least $50 million net revenue, and that's their goal. And I'm more of a chairman, chief Sumo, help them with that. And so with YouTube, it's to get to 250,000. And so the question at the end of the day with marketing is that what are all the different activities we can be doing in what priority order to get to 250,000 subscribers? And we've tried a fuck ton of them. And eventually you have to say, okay, well, what are the activities I can 10x? And that's how we do it. So if you look at the Noah Kagan YouTube channel, there's a lot of fucking videos now about how this person made this much money. Have you noticed that? It's like
they're great
Warren
videos.
Buffett.
Yeah, watch them.
Yeah, they're really great. And those videos got a lot of fucking subscribers because that's my only goal. And so then we look at all the other activities. I kind of look at it in 2 ways. I look at internal and external marketing. So with YouTube, the number one way to grow to YouTube channel is your video. Number one fucking way I've ever seen. But number 2 is what are external things you can do to pump up your subscriber numbers? And actually, ideally subscribers that want to watch your content. Just getting subscribers of fucking people that don't give a shit is not helpful. Right. And so externally, we've tried a lot of stuff. We've tried email swaps where we're like, we'll promote someone else on an email list, they'll promote us. We've tried giveaways. But what we have found is that collaborations where Noah comes on someone else's channel, because I think when you're doing marketing, you want to be in the same medium. So if I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, I want to do marketing within YouTube, not email or Twitter. Like people are fucking dumb. They're like, hey, I'm going to grow my Instagram channel and promote them to YouTube. It's like, no, they're on Instagram.
Right.
You can grow Instagram there. So what we found is that doing collaborations is really high. So what we'll do is that we look at the subscriber numbers from being on someone else's show, and we'll see if that makes a difference or not. And if it does, it's like, all right, we're going to do a lot more collaborations and other things we reduce. And so we found collabs. So our goal internally is 3 collabs a month to be on other people's shows. One thing we've done just to share with you is we do giveaways within the collabs. We haven't really done it here, and I'm happy to do it. But we can. What's good for you is that we give away iPads or whatever to people that comment and they're subscribed to both of our channels. So I'm happy to do that with you on your show if you like.
Yeah, that's dope.
But that's something if you want.
Yeah, let's do it. One thing that's interesting about you that I'm glad we collabed is I do get a lot of comments about, okay, Spencer, well, who should I follow? I see you criticize this guy. Who should I follow? And so a collaboration like this one makes sense because I do think one thing I really like about your channel is, number one, you've gotten a lot better at making YouTube videos for YouTube. That's been a big push because I've followed your channel for a while. So that's been number one. Number two is you make videos that are enjoyable and entertaining and easy to comprehend, but then the credibility on the back end is what makes it pop, right? Like I could make a similar video, but there's certain things you say, there's about 3 nuggets of things you say where it's like, oh, here at AppSumo, we do this type of advertising where I can't say that. And so that's where your video is a little better than someone like me making a similar video.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. I think I haven't done a great job of actually, I don't know if people who've watched my videos for the first time know anything about my background. And that's something I've kind of struggled with, which is like, hey, we have this company that's super legit, helps millions of entrepreneurs, been around for 11 years, and I've been at like the best companies in the world. But at the same time, like if that doesn't help the videos and the channel itself, then I don't really talk about it, but I think we could integrate that more. I think you bring up a good point because there's a lot of videos, like a friend yesterday was like, you should make a video on hiring. And that would have worked 10 years ago on YouTube. But if I make a video on hiring, like it doesn't work with YouTube today. And so one video but I think the topic is interesting. So what we're going to make a video on is like, I'm trying to find all my former managers and have them roast me. Yeah,
that would be good.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, at the end of the day, I think what people complain about, people are like, there's a YouTube algorithm. There's always a game to be played.
Yes.
And you have to play by the game's rules, or you have to create the fucking game yourself. Like at the end of the day, you know who the biggest winner in YouTube is?
Google. Yeah,
they fucking win. Whether me and you are creating this fucking content to get more people, guess who's winning? Google. Oh wow, they gave me some ad money. Yeah, they keep more than 50% of that shit. Mm-hmm. So I think if you want to win big, like AppSumo big or YouTube big, you create the platform. That's why on AppSumo we have a marketplace now.
Yeah, I view YouTube on a spectrum, right? So on one side of the spectrum is pure entertainment. Mr. Beast, you don't learn a darn thing about anything. Mr. Beast videos, highly entertaining. And then on the flip side, you have certain channels that are only educational. It's like when I want to learn about this specific thing, super boring topic, I'm going to this guy. And so where your channel lies in that spectrum is kind of difficult, but you need to find your lane. I personally think that in the middle is best for me. I think you're finding that space too, where there is.
What do you mean in the middle?
The middle meaning there's going to be entertaining elements like, man, how Mr. Beast makes $40 million per year. That's more entertainment. But in the middle, there's still educational elements in that. So, hey, when you run advertising, you can think about doing this or target this audience. That's where I think you're in that middle spectrum right now, where you get some highly sexy thumbnails and titles, but you can also educate a little bit. And what I'm saying is that how to hire people is fully on the educational. Yeah. And those videos generally don't do as well, especially if your channel is so like where you lie on that spectrum. I think if you stay in that lane, you have the best growth personally. Well, like if Mr. Beast came out with like an educational video, it just wouldn't make sense, right? The audience doesn't go to him for education at all.
I think what's amazing with YouTube, honestly, is that there's literally unlimited amounts of content to be created for whatever your people are interested in. I think that's why I'm so excited for it as a job creator for anyone. Like if you're in Las Vegas and you're not Spencer, you're someone else and you're like, hey, I'm really interested in tea. I'm really interested in pottery. I'm really interested in watches, whatever that is. You can create a successful business, like $10,000 a month, if you can create content and stick with it for some period of time. Like I talk about the law of 100.
One thing that you have that I don't know if others have, and I think it's a skill that people can learn. I feel like your mind is open, meaning like a part of your brain is always open and you just go, I want to go do this. Whereas I think some people might have the similar first thought, but they have either trauma or setbacks or things in their mind saying, I can't do it. So for instance, I kind of started to see the world the same way you have, where it's like, dude, if I wanted to talk about tea, I could start a YouTube channel about tea and then do this and have all these opportunities. But I think it's common for people who haven't succeeded on YouTube yet to see that and go, oh, no one wants to talk about tea. Whereas I feel like you are very open. It's just like immediately the world's my canvas. I just want to start doing this and this and that. And I don't know if that's a skill that you can learn, if it's because you've succeeded in life and then it opens those synapses a little more than others. But I found that
have
like
I succeeded
YouTube,
because
go ahead.
or have I succeeded because of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
Chicken or
I
the
think
egg.
last night, well, I'll give 2 examples, but last night I was on a webinar with Mind Valley and they brought on all their members, and one lady was like, I want to start a nonprofit. She's in Bahamas, Lisa. And she's like, I'd like to start a nonprofit. Like, how do I start a nonprofit website? And what tools do I need? And I was like, well, hold on. Have you raised any money for this nonprofit? And who are you trying to help? She's like, well, I want to help companies in Bahamas. I was like, well, name one. This one. Okay. And I want to get companies to change how they donate. I was like, well, why don't you just try to raise $1 from a friend? And I was like, I'll give you $5 right now. Can you get a few other friends and find an organization? She's like, really? I was like, yeah, let me send you a PayPal. She's like, well, I don't have PayPal. I'm like, God damn, I have to do everything for you. And so, no, she was great. So I was like, go sign up for fucking PayPal right now. And I sent her $5, and then the rest of the people in the audience sent her dollars. She thinks she raised like $30. And I was like, go donate that money tomorrow. Tell us where you donated it, and then go ask more people for dollars. And I think that could be applied to literally anything in business or in life. Like, you want to start changing how you look, like your physical fitness, just go for like a little walk right fucking now. Stop listening to this show. And I think with the YouTube thing, one of my successes, or I guess weaknesses at times, it hurts me and helps me, is like, I just fucking go. And, you know, as an example, like a common excuse is like, I don't have money. Noah's rich. He's got all the money. It's like, all right, bitch. Well, like, you can start a YouTube channel today. Let's say you're interested in NFTs and the crypto shit. You literally could take your phone or laptop and start just reviewing all this NFT stuff. I think that's a great channel that could do really, really well, but you have to commit to it and do it for a year. And you don't need money for that. You don't even have to buy any of the NFT or crypto stuff. You can just talk about it. And eventually you get enough money to potentially buy it yourself.
Yeah. One thing I've learned about being around Ryan, which by the way, I think you guys should collab for sure.
Yeah, let's afterwards I'll connect.
I can text. I mentioned it to him the other day. But anyway, I had noticed that there's a certain way that, and I can sense it in you as well. When you wake up in the morning, you attack the day, you find reasons to do something. In the same way with him, it's like when he wanted to start YouTube, he's like, he told me, he said, I'm going to succeed. I don't even know what another option is. And I feel like when you have success at that level, I think what happens in the way you attack the world is very aggressive. It's like, oh, I want to do that. Okay, I'm just going to go do it. And I feel like that's a skill that's learned, that you've learned. And I don't know how to get that in someone who hasn't succeeded in some lane. Because I've noticed that with YouTube too. Like, now that I've had a little success on it, I've noticed that I attack YouTube a little differently. Whereas instead of finding reasons not to do something, I see people and just go, dude, just go start it. Like, that's a great idea. Just start making videos now.
Well, I think what's interesting, Spencer, about what you're saying is, guys and girls out there, who do we know and who comes to mind when we notice that they always get what they want? So, and what is it about, and this is for anyone who wants to learn about their themselves, is, okay, these people always seem to get what they want. What are they doing differently than me if I'm not getting what I want? Right? Like you said, you said Ryan Pineda, you're like, this guy is going to make it fucking happen.
Yes.
There wasn't an option. And I think there's something there about no plan B, right? Like, and what are these guys doing differently? Is it that, like, they have more money? Is it that they're more perseverant? Is it a matter of, like, are they putting more hours? Like, I'll tell you, my friend Andrew Chen, this guy is one of the probably top 100 VCs in the world. He's at Andreessen Horowitz, which is one of the top VC firms in the world. And he's visiting me in Austin. I was with him last week before I left. This guy is up at 9 a.m. and he is going to sleep at 9 p.m. I don't want to talk about his wealth, but this guy's way wealthier than I am. Mm-hmm. And so when people are out there saying, like, oh, I want to get rich, it's like, well, how much are you putting in? Because this guy's at the top and this guy's still putting in. And that's why he is at the top. And so I think it's interesting for people to try to reflect on who those people are and what they're doing, and then maybe copy some of those habits.
Do you think you have a switch, meaning that you could turn on and off? Like, for instance, in order to get successful at anything, you have to have that perseverance, the ability to become Elon Musk, most wealthy guy on the planet. He's still working. You can't turn it off, right? So it's the theory of, like, in order to get somewhere, you have to have a skill or a certain determination, and then you can't just turn it off once you get there. And I'm curious, do you ever feel that way? Like, do you have a light switch that's always on and you don't know how to turn it off?
I've tried to turn it off lately. Not turn off my fire, because I think we have intrinsic stuff that just is not going to fucking change. Like, I can't stop. I'll never be able to stop. I think where I've tried to reevaluate is stop chasing money. Like, I bought a house. I just bought like a $2 million house. That's crazy to me. And I think normally I would just look for another deal. And I really was like, I got to get a deal. I got to get another 800 square foot house that's literally falling down. Like, my roof is falling down, my ceiling. No joke. My floors are warped.
The 800 square feet is 2 million?
No, the 800 square feet is where I currently live. I just bought an expensive house.
Oh, got it.
But I think what I'm trying to be more mindful of is like, if I die with all the money, what's the point?
Right.
And so I'm trying to be more balanced to just enjoy the journey, enjoy what we're creating. And so I think in terms of like Elon Musk, I don't know why it feels like it's so obvious. Maybe it sounds like you observe it, but the guys who are the wealthiest in the world and the women who are the wealthiest in the world are still working on the thing.
Right. It was never about the money.
Yeah. But the people who are like, I want to get rich off a course from FBA, or I'm going to get rich trying to do real estate flipping, don't seem to be as rich. And not just that it's only about being rich, but like, I'm hoping that they get satisfaction out of finding something they truly enjoy and then sticking with that forever.
I think that's the motto. You nailed it.
Dude, but you do real estate. Do you want to do like a real estate thing? Like,
yeah.
Hon, so I guess you come on my show.
You'll actually like this. I can sense that you'll like this. So have you ever heard of the term house hacking?
No.
Okay, so house hacking is the principle of buying a house, renting out the rooms, and living for free. That's the goal. Okay.
Okay.
So here in Vegas, I have a 7-bed, 5-bath house, 2,400 square feet. My total expenses are about $1,900 a month. I'm about to purchase the house, and the income from the leases is $3,700, not including me. So I'm a surplus of $1,800 a month while living for free.
Sweet. Why don't you do a lot more of that?
Agreed. That's my goal for 2021 and beyond.
That's interesting. At the end of the day, I think where I've tried to tell my brother is that there's literally unlimited ways to make money. Like, making money is not the hard part. Putting in the work is the hard part. Because people are like, I need a great idea. It's like, no, you don't. You really don't. Like, you can start a YouTube channel for $0. That's an easy ass one. Mm-hmm. But if you want to do real estate, people are like, well, I don't have money. Well, it's like, well, guess what? There's people who do.
Yeah. Partner.
Go find people find dumbasses like me that give people money.
Who want deals, right? If you got a deal, you're the deal man. Yeah. One thing I found that's fascinating to me is the amount of people living paycheck to paycheck and are so adamant about not living with roommates. And I'm just like, you're not in a point in life where you can live a life of luxury. You shouldn't be. You should. I'm very much a proponent of house hacking. I preach it to people in their 20s. I think everyone should house hack. I've been doing it for 4 years, and it's the best way to live for free, which gives you that extra income if you want to try out a new business, if you want to try out investing, if you want to put money in crypto, whatever, you at least have that surplus, whereas before you didn't.
I mean, to give people an idea, I didn't start renting and paying rent until I was around 30.
Because living on couches?
Just living for as cheap as fucking possible so I could do whatever the fuck I want. And then eventually, like, even I didn't probably start making millions. It was like, let's really, I don't know, 35, 34. Right. So just to give you context of how long it can take. So it's not that I hope people fucking beat me. It's not about getting there faster or sooner. It's just like getting there the way you want.
Yeah.
So like, I love real estate. I think I own like 5 properties in Austin. It's fucking fun. But at the end of the day, it's like, I actually, like 5 years ago, or was it 10 years ago? I was like trying to buy a bunch of real estate. This is 5 years ago. And I'm like, do I have an advantage in this world? Because I'm running around trying to buy real estate. So just to give you context, like AppSumo yesterday I'll pull up the number. This is not bragging, just to give you kind of an idea. And there's a point, I'll make a point to this. So like AppSumo yesterday did $247,000.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's fucking, I don't know how we do, the team is honestly amazing. The team is unreal. And
the loan on my house is $248,000. That's funny.
Well, by the way, that's revenue, not profit. So Charlatan will always tell you their revenue.
Yep.
I'm not going to talk about our profit stuff. And that's how, that's money we selling products and stuff like that. But I think what people need to be aware of is like, where's your fucking advantage?
Right.
So I'm looking at, like 5 years ago, I'm looking at real estate, like, oh, I'm going to try to buy all these houses. And then I put up a spreadsheet. And it was like, all right, no, if you buy a house, it was like 500,000. There's this yellow house on Willow Street. At the end of the year, cash flow wise, how much can you make? It was like $5,000. Woo wee, right? And then 5 years later, maybe it appreciates to $1 million. And then I put in the next column how much AppSumo does. At this time, this is years ago, we did still about $5,000 a day. It was at least, it was more than that. So I was like, what's a better use of my time? And I
Definitely
think
run the business.
so. I think people need to be mindful of like, hey, real estate's cool, and I think real estate creates the most millionaires out of any industry. But at the same time, any fucking dumbass can do real estate.
Yes.
Not that you're a
I
dumbass,
think,
and not
yeah,
that.
yeah. No, no, I am because I've lost all my money on my first 3 deals. But,
I
but
think the
real
point is
estate,
find your advantage.
yeah,
And
real
find
estate
something
has
where
the highest floor, right? Because it's a hard asset, right? Like if you just buy a place and it cash flows a little bit, like the floor is only so it's high, right? You can only go so
good point.
bad, right? Whereas a business, there's a lot of boom and bust, right? You make no money and you lose all your money, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I would just, it's not I disagree with you, but I think you can do almost any business without money. And I think that's what I've always encouraged people to do. So like if you look at my course, or you look at how I've started my companies, my most successful businesses were all started in weekends without a lot of cash.
That's
So,
so
like
cool.
appsumo.com, I started it with literally a guy in Pakistan for $50 in a weekend and a PayPal button. And that's all I spent. And then when we started like my previous company, we did Facebook games and payments for Facebook games. Like I built it with that same guy in Pakistan, or no, guy in Philippines, excuse me. And that cost me like maybe like $80 to make my first app, which ended up generating thousands of bucks. And so same with the Facebook payments. Anyways, the point being is that like you can create very large successful companies if you limit your time and your spending. And I think that's where people get fucked up is they're like, I need an engineer. Like I talked to this lady yesterday. I'm creating a nonprofit. I need to go build a website. I'm like, no, you don't. And I think that's why the business stuff has just a high upside to a relatively low cost of risk. You just have to put in time.
Yeah, a guy like you is better off lending the money or buying apartments in a syndicate if you want to get in real estate. Your time is not, it's not a good use of time for you to buy rentals, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what that, so I think the problem with real estate is that it's sexy. Like it's so cool to be like, I have this many apartments, I have this many houses. Like you see that? Like cuz on internet world you're like, here's my email list and it's like no one gives a fuck. Like unless you know YouTube subscribers is kind of a little bit of a dick move, you know, like a showy move.
Yeah.
I think coming back to it though, it's really what do you enjoy? I think there's two questions there. It's like what do you enjoy? So if I enjoyed real estate, even though it didn't make me the most money, like YouTube, I enjoy YouTube the most. It does not make me the most money, but that's what I enjoy. So I think people have to decide that partially. And then the second piece is where do you have an advantage? And you know, with your time. And so I have an advantage in this internet world because not everyone can compete with AppSumo, especially now.
Right.
But on YouTube, I have to compete with a lot of people. In real estate, I have to compete with even more people. Buying stocks in crypto, I have to compete with even more. And so I think you have to be considerate of that. So I do invest via syndicates right now. So like apartment buildings. So for I don't know. Basically, and how I found them is interesting. It's just like I had a landlord who seemed rich, and I asked him how do you get rich. He's like, well, I sold a company and now I do real estate. And I was like, well, can I just give you money if you're doing real estate? Same thing with stocks. So my stepdad, when the stock market crashed in March last year, I called him and I was like, hey, how's your portfolio? He's like, dude, I'm up. I'm like, what do you mean you're up? He's like, well, I shorted it. I was like,
Wow.
He's like, yeah, it was obvious. And I was like, it was obvious. And I was jealous. I was like, you son of a, well, he's my father, my stepfather. I was like, dude, I'm jealous of you, man. And I was realizing like I'm an expert in one field. There are experts in other fields. So I was like, can I just give you my money to invest in stocks? Because if that's what you're thinking about all day. So that's what I did. And so he has my account and now he just does, I mean, not entirely, but he does a lot with the stocks that he wants to do. So I'm like, something to that, right? Like find your niche and then own the fuck out of that and be okay not being great at the other ones and finding others who are.
The beauty of the world is if you become an expert in one lane, you can be as rich as you want to be.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know, as rich as you want to be.
Well, to me, house hacking is what I do in real estate. I want to rent by the room. That's the model I want to do moving forward, where you basically get a house and rent by the room as opposed to a single family. And that is super profitable. I could do that super tight, small niche and get 10 properties and make plenty of money.
I guess the question I would ask you with that is like, you're going to buy this one. Why haven't you bought it yet, by the way?
Oh man, it's been a tough 2 years, man. So I lost all my money flipping houses, had max credit cards, so I couldn't buy it then. And so it's a lease purchase. So right when I sell my 2 flips that went wrong and I was gonna get out of debt, I basically paid off credit card debt. I got furloughed from my job because of COVID last year. And so then I had to wait until my job came back. Well, my job never came back. And so then when my job didn't come back, I had to find a lender. Well, I didn't have a W-2 and I've only had YouTube income for a year as opposed to 2 years. And so they're not counting the YouTube income. And so it's been a challenge of like finding a lender that was willing to lend to me. And then now we're still like trying to close on it. It's been a lot of stressful moments of the lender using different numbers. The appraisal came in fine, came in at 340. I'm buying for 310. But it's just been stressful. We should have closed today. But my lender just called me. I don't know what he wants, but we're going to close soon, hopefully.
Well, I hope it closes soon. I mean, again, like to be successful is to be resourceful.
Yes, very much
Right?
so.
So the money is out there. There's dumbasses like me to have money.
Yeah.
There are
Worst case, I
a
can
lot
go
of
get a
other
bridge
places.
loan. It's worst case.
Yeah, you bridge loan. There's like those websites like Peer Street. There's, you know, there are ways. There's like lease back. Did the guy not want to do a lease back? The
It was
seller?
a lease purchase agreement for 2 years.
Why can't he's not fully covering the financing? I don't get it.
No, so I'm leasing the property from him. It's a 2 year. So get this, it's a 2 year lease, and the 2 year lease is up on Monday. So technically, it's a friend. He could take the property from me on Monday if he wanted
If you
to.
haven't purchased it,
I haven't purchased it yet.
why don't you just let him keep all of the shit and then you just take the cash flow? Fuck owning the appreciation.
Well, because I have a lot of equity in it.
Oh, you already put cash into the house?
Yeah. I'm 160 grand into it, so I'd lose 160K.
Can he fuck you out of that on Monday?
Yeah, he could. Yeah,
Good
stress, baby. And then I start this day, and it's the live stream's not one to work. My whole life has just been stress lately, man.
What would make, well, so one, stress is good, right? There's a great book
is.
called The Upside of Stress.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it, but basically it's an interesting book to be like, how do you turn that stress into like a productive thing? So I'm curious, like, what would make you end this day really strong?
I am very strong mentally. Every day is a good day for me. And so for me, I like the chance, like, dude, look, I've been doing YouTube for 6 years. The first 5 years, no one gave a crap about my channel. A year later of extreme growth and exponential growth, I'm now chatting with you. I'm connecting with super legit people. Like, what do I have to complain about in life? I have food on the table. I have opportunity to make money. I have a really bright future, and I'm the best looking guy on YouTube. Like, what? Come on, what can I complain about?
I mean, I'm Jewish, so we love complaining. I'll tell you that. That's like one of our specialties. Like, you want to ask my superpower, I can complain about anything. But I think I mean, I don't know if I fully buy it, man, because you're like, hey, I'm still stressed out. So I would guess I was still trying to figure out like what would reduce the level of stress. And you know, I think in business where I've done well is like, how do I increase the level of certainty? Like you asked, I don't think I'm an expert marketer. I think I've found things I like a lot, and I just know that I love them, and so I know that other people are gonna like them, and I just market the fuck out of it. And I say, well, like, how do I guarantee I hit whatever target I'm trying to hit? Like, so if our goal for YouTube is 250,000 subscribers. So it's like, what can I do that will guarantee hitting that fucking number? So there's no certainty. There's no uncertainty. I don't believe in hope in business.
Yeah, I think what's tough is a lot of my stress right now is outside of my hands, is what I'm trying to get at. I can't do anything about the lender. I've given all the documentation. I've given everything to them. It's now up to them to finish the loan. That's really the biggest stress in my life.
What if they come back and say no?
I got to solve that problem then.
Well, I know, but I would wonder, is there any other loan. Like,
I would have to find a bridge
so
loan.
is there anything else you could do in parallel so you're not, because like being dependent on these one guy sounds fucked.
It's
like,
tough,
can you
man.
renegotiate with your boy? Are there other lenders out there? Are there other like short-term loans?
I would have to do a bridge loan. That would probably make the most sense.
Have you started that process? Do you have the bridge loan people?
No, that's on me. I thought this was going to close. I had everything lined up. There was something, I had a call on Wednesday where we had some information come in that was unexpected.
And that's challenging, man.
Yeah.
That's part of the fun of life. That's the hot sauce of life.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's all good, man. Like I'm in a tough position in life right now, full of stress. I'll get out of it. I always find solutions, baby.
Yeah. I hope you do.
Yeah. But hey, man, I'm sure you've had tough times in your life. Like, it hasn't been easy sailing. Like, you get fired from Facebook, and then 5 years later, you have to look at the stock doing well and question if you made the right decisions. You know, I'm sure that wasn't easy.
Dude, I had a day where I woke up and my company was banned by Facebook. We were making about $15,000 a day in profit, and we were banned by Facebook. And our largest competitor that day sued us. This is the same day.
When it rains, it pours, baby.
Yeah, I was actually pretty happy that day, though. I was like, I didn't really like this business, and I didn't like my business partners. So I was like, it's
I
kind of an easy out.
I have a spiritual theory that life like really punishes you at certain times, but so I've thought about this too. What's beautiful about life is that if you think about it, you've probably had relationships in your life where it was beautiful and then it ends, and then you in that moment it sucked. It's like you're crushed, or at least I've had relationships where you're crushed, right? You're really sad. But then a year or two later, you look back and say, man, that was really pivotal. That was a really important moment in time. That was a really important relationship, and I'm glad it ended. So why not during that moment why not position it as this is going to be a great learning experience and I'm going to appreciate this in a year or two. That's how I try to justify the difficulties.
Yeah, shit still sucks in the moment though. I
100%.
Yeah, you know, I think what's fascinating though, I've noticed myself at times this year being reactive. Like, oh, shit's bad. This girl, this business, this health, this date, what can I do? And like scrambling. And almost every time the next day, if I've taken a break, got a good night's sleep, went for a walk, I like take a moment and I kind of reflect on that. I'm like, nah, I was really reactive. Like, what can I, like, how can I actually just try to calm down a little bit and then think about it a little bit more proactively? And I'm like, oh, it's not as bad. I can actually handle the situation.
Yeah. I got no more questions for you. I got
no more answers.
Thank you so much for joining us, Noah. For those of you, if you're sticking around, definitely check out his channel. Makes great videos.